Hey, do you know what peer-reviewed research is? Or if I say the word peer review, like, hey, you should only trust peer-reviewed sources. What does that mean to you? Now, I know when I have to teach research methods, when I get to teach research methods to my undergraduate psychology students, a lot of them come in having no idea what peer reviewed means, and some of them get to the end of the class, and despite extensive teaching on the topic and showing them many examples of peer reviewed research and how to find it, some of them still don't know. So it's not surprising that a lot of folks in the general public do not know what peer review means or what peer reviewed research is. And apparently part of the issue may be that peer review means different things to different people from different, areas of experience. Because I went into TikTok and I just did a search to see, hey, any videos recently about peer review? Because I'd seen a lot of interesting comments showing that people didn't know what peer review meant, but I couldn't do a reply video because by the time I was ready to do a reply video, they'd already been deleted because other people were letting them know that they didn't know what they were talking about. So I just did a search for peer review. And the AI stuff, the search highlights comes up and says, a peer interview. That's not what I asked for. A peer interview is a type of job interview where you meet with potential future colleagues to assess cultural fit and team dynamics. That's not going to help you know what peer review is. Should we try Google? Now, Google's a little better. Generally, I don't always trust the AI crap they force you to look at the top, but it's okay here. Peer review is a process where experts in a specific field, people you might want to trust, evaluate the quality and validity of research typically before it's published. It's a crucial step in the scientific and scholarly publishing, helping to ensure the credibility and reliability of published work. And then if you go a little, all right, the stuff that's not from AI, one of the first things that comes up from Biomed Central, peer review is the system used to assess the quality of a manuscript before it is published. So it's like a quality control system, a filtering system for getting only quality work published. Is it a perfect system? No, because human beings are involved and they're not paid for doing peer review. Speaking of which, I'm overdue for one right now. I'm not in a rush because it's my spring break and it's unpaid labor, but I will do the peer review because it's one of those things you're supposed to do. If you want to get your stuff published, you're supposed to also do some peer review, a little quid pro quo. You know what I'm saying? Maybe quid pro quo going on. All right. So why would they have me do peer review? What do they have me do peer review stuff on? Well, I'm a developmental psychologist and I teach undergraduate and graduate statistics and research methods. So a lot of times I'm reviewing articles to check for whether they did the statistics right. So I check for things like, did they perform the correct statistics given their study? And if they interpreted them correctly, are they underextending or overextending their findings? Usually it's overextending their findings. And then they get some feedback from me like, hey, this is a good start, but you got to fix some things. And then so often they will get a revise and resubmit recommendation from me. Unless it's horrible, then they get a reject. And so your paper is either accepted or rejected or often revise and resubmit until you get it to where the peer reviewers say, yes, this is a good study. It's interesting. The science is sound. The interpretation is sound. We should let people read this who want to learn about the science. Now that is very different than someone who posts something on, I don't know, Twitter or some blog somewhere, some website with no peer review. Lots of folks get stuff published. Also in books. A lot of times students will get confused in my research methods classes when I have them start writing papers, research papers, and they want to cite books. And I'm like, no, try not to cite books. And they're like, but that's what we've been doing in like our English classes and stuff. We've been citing books. I'm like, that's different, all right? In a scientific field, books are actually not the best source because they're often not peer-reviewed. And those that do have some kind of peer review process involved, they're old by the time you get your hands on them. And with the journals, they have a system where if they do find a problem with an article, they can post these things like errata, or that's basically like, hey, there was a mistake in this article, or there's a problem in this article, and they can also retract articles. They can unpublish them, kind of like Wakefield's study that got the whole anti-vax movement going. been retracted because the whole peer review process says, yes, we let this through at one point, but now we see it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be published in this respected peer-reviewed journal. So when just somebody from the general public, and I'm not saying that people in the general public, can't know things, can't learn things, not at all. They just need to be aware that there's more to research and understanding science than just Googling something, just looking something up. There's a lot of information out there. Some of it is outright false, and some of it is of a higher quality than others. The highest quality research you're going to find is going to be peer-reviewed scholarly research. Now, there is one issue that some of these articles are behind a paywall. They're not as easy to get to as some random web article that's not peer-reviewed and could be full of misinformation and disinformation. But the best sources are the peer-reviewed sources. Now, how would you even find peer-reviewed sources? Now, if you don't have access to a university library where you can use one of their fancy search engines, you can use Google Scholar. Scholar.google.com, and the articles you would find through there are going to be of the peer-reviewed type. Now, some of them are higher quality than others, but at least they are scholarly articles. And then you also, when you find a source, just look up the journal. Look up the journal. They should have a website, and look for somewhere where it says this is a peer-reviewed journal. If it is, they are going to say somewhere that there's a peer review process. Now, are there problems with the peer review system? In addition to the paywall that I mentioned, it's hard to get published, as I know very well. It is hard to get published in a peer review journal. Sometimes you're sitting on interesting findings and nobody's hearing about them because you can't get it published, or it takes a long time to get published. Typically, you have to wait for the whole process. The editor has to get the time to look at it, often for unpaid labor or low paid labor. And then the reviewers, who are usually completely unpaid, have to take the time out of their busy schedule to review the articles and often do multiple revisions and things like that. It takes time. It takes time to get these things published if they get accepted at all. I've had, in my opinion, perfectly good research get rejected just because it wasn't novel enough. I got to present it at a conference, but it didn't get published in a journal where people would be able to access it that way. So it's not a perfect system. It does set up a system where people are going to have a way easier time of finding the lower quality or outright false stuff. But please, 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 I beg you, if you're looking for information on any scientific topic, look for peer review.